There's a legend in television history, and it wears a glossy black coat. But behind the heroic voice, the glowing red scanner, and the impossible stunts lies a darker truth that most fans never hear. KITT, the mighty Trans Am from Knight Rider, almost didn't survive its own fame. In fact, after filming Wrapped, one of the hero cars was literally minutes away from being crushed into metal scrap before a studio worker secretly pulled it out of the line. And that isn't even the strangest part. Because the world's most futuristic talking car was built using hollow fiberglass shells, toy buttons, repurposed industrial lights, and even a stolen Pontiac that mysteriously appeared on set during the show's early days. The KITT you think you know was only the surface. What lived underneath was chaos, hidden engineering tricks, last-minute hacks, and a long trail of stunt cars that vanished, broke apart, or were quietly destroyed to keep the myth alive. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the weird, the forgotten, and the unbelievable secrets that made KITT a television icon. Settle in, keep your eyes on the scanner light, and let me know which discovery shocks you the most. Because this is 20 weird facts about the Knight Rider Trans Am. Number 20. The hero KITT that escaped the crusher. Among all the strange stories behind Knight Rider, nothing hits harder than the fate of the main hero KITT car. After filming ended, the studio no longer needed the fleet of Trans Ams and quietly lined them up for destruction. The hero car, the very one used for close-ups and iconic driving scenes, was pushed toward the crusher like any other retired prop. No ceremony, no respect, just cold metal waiting to flatten a piece of television history. But fate took an unexpected turn. A studio worker who admired the car recognized it on the lot, moments before it was scheduled to be crushed. Acting on instinct, he pulled it out of the line, filed emergency paperwork, and bought the car for scrap value. That impulsive decision saved the most important KITT in existence. Without that quiet act of rebellion, the world would never have the surviving hero Trans Am that fans now treat like a sacred relic. This near-death escape remains one of the strangest and most dramatic secrets behind the legendary machine. Number 19. The stolen Trans Am used on set. Before Knight Rider became a hit, the production struggled to gather enough Trans Ams for filming. Pontiac could not supply cars quickly, and the show needed multiple vehicles for stunts, interior scenes, exterior shots, and promotional work. Then, something bizarre happened. One morning, a black Trans Am appeared on the lot with no paperwork, no delivery record, and no studio authorization. The crew had no idea where it came from, but they desperately needed cars, so they quietly added it to the lineup. Only later did they discover the unsettling truth. The mysterious car had been impounded by local authorities as a stolen vehicle. Somewhere between the tow yard and legal processing, it vanished and somehow arrived at the Knight Rider studio. Whether someone donated it or simply moved it off the books was never explained. The car was used for early wide shots and stunt rehearsals before the studio realized its origins. It became a hidden chapter in the show's history, a stolen Trans Am that accidentally helped build a television icon. Number 18. The hollow fiberglass KITT shells. When viewers watched KITT perform high-speed turns or survive dramatic crashes, they assumed the production used real Trans Ams reinforced for stunt work. The truth was far stranger. Many of the KITTs seen in fast or dangerous shots were not cars at all, at least not in the traditional sense. They were hollow fiberglass shells mounted on lightweight frames, built only to look like the real thing from a distance. They had no interiors, no engines, and sometimes no functioning wheels. These shell cars were so light that stunt crews could move them by hand, position them for ramps, or drag them behind tow rigs to simulate high-speed action. For crash scenes, the shells were disposable, designed to shatter dramatically without risking a real vehicle or a stunt driver. This low-budget illusion worked so well that millions of viewers never realized they were watching empty replicas. The hero car looked invincible on screen, but behind the camera, much of KITT was nothing more than carefully crafted plastic. Number 17. The industrial machine that inspired the scanner. The glowing red scanner is the soul of KITT, instantly recognizable and forever tied to the character. Fans assume it was custom-built automotive tech, engineered especially for the night industry's supercar. The truth could not be further from that image. The original scanner was inspired by equipment found in industrial factories, specifically a type of measurement and diagnostic light used on large machinery. The production team repurposed the concept because they needed something futuristic, cheap, and easy to maintain. The scanner assembly itself was a jury-rigged setup with simple bulbs and colored filters, wired by hand, and prone to overheating. During long filming days, crew members kept fire extinguishers nearby because the unit occasionally smoked. The light pattern was controlled manually, not by advanced electronics, and had to be reset between takes. Yet, this improvised industrial hack became one of the most iconic visual signatures in television history. It proved that a little imagination and a salvaged machine light could define an entire character. Number 16. The stunt kit that vanished forever. Among the many stunt kits built for Knight Rider, one holds a special place because no one knows where it went. The production created several lightweight stunt shells for high-risk scenes, but one particular car disappeared sometime during the later seasons. It was last seen in a storage yard behind the studio, parked alongside damaged props and leftover body panels. When crew members returned to retrieve it for repairs, the car was gone. Not moved, not checked out, simply gone. There were rumors. Some believed a collector stole it under the cover of night. Others claimed the studio scrapped it by accident, mixing it with low-priority materials. A few even suggested that someone from inside the production quietly took it as a souvenir. To this day, no documentation, no photos, and no recovery ever surfaced. This missing stunt kit became a ghost story among Knight Rider fans, a lost replica that might still be sitting in a dusty barn or hidden garage somewhere, waiting for someone to rediscover it. Number 15. The kits with no pedals inside. David Hasselhoff often looked completely in control while driving KITT on screen, but what viewers did not know was that several of the interior cars he sat in were never meant to be driven at all. These were interior rigs, built only for dashboard shots and close-up dialogue scenes. To reduce weight and simplify the camera layout, the production removed essential components such as pedals, wiring harnesses, and even parts of the steering column. From the outside, they looked like functional vehicles. Inside, they were hollow shells with accessories glued into place. This led to awkward moments during filming. Hasselhoff would slide into the seat to deliver lines, realize there were no pedals, and have to adjust his posture so the camera did not reveal the empty floor. Crew members sometimes had to brace the car because the rigs rolled easily without real mechanical resistance. Despite their limitations, these pedalless kits helped create some of the most memorable cockpit scenes in the series, scenes that fans still quote and imitate today. Number 14. The hidden driver beneath the seat. One of the most mind-bending illusions in Knight Rider was KITT driving completely on its own. While fans imagined advanced robotics or early autonomous technology, the real trick was far more physical. For many moving shots, a stunt driver was literally hidden inside the car, not in the usual seat, but underneath it. The production modified certain stunt kits by raising the main seat frame and creating a cramped cavity below. The driver would curl into the space, steer using a secondary wheel, and control the pedals with extended linkages. Filming these scenes was uncomfortable and sometimes dangerous. The hidden driver had minimal visibility, relying on tiny slits or small video monitors. Heat built up quickly in the sealed compartment, forcing the crew to take frequent breaks. Even with all the challenges, the illusion worked flawlessly. Viewers believed KITT was alive, responding to Michael Knight's commands. This bizarre hidden driver setup remains one of the cleverest and strangest stunts ever used on a regular television series. Number 13, the nose cone that cracked non-stop. The sleek black nose cone at the front of KITT became one of the car's most recognizable features, giving it a futuristic and almost predatory look. Yet this signature element caused endless headaches during production. The piece was hand-sculpted from lightweight materials rather than molded from factory components. Because it was not designed for real-world stress, the cone cracked constantly, from heat, vibration, stunt impacts, or even minor bumps during transport. The crew often spent long nights sanding, patching, repainting, and polishing the nose cone to keep it screen-ready. Some weeks they repaired it so many times that the paint layers grew noticeably thick. A few shots even reveal faint seams or fresh paint lines if viewers freeze the frame. Despite all the trouble, the production kept using the fragile nosepiece because it defined KITT's unusual identity. Without it, the Trans Am looked too normal, too familiar, and not worthy of a talking supercar. Number 12. The Trans Ams sacrificed for stunts. Knight Rider had action in nearly every episode, and the stunts were surprisingly brutal on the vehicles. The production ended up destroying well over a handful of Trans Ams throughout the run of the show. Some cars were sacrificed to jumps that bent frames on impact. Others performed heavy sliding maneuvers that tore suspension components apart. A few were intentionally wrecked for dramatic collisions and chase sequences. Pontiac was not always willing or able to supply fresh cars, so the crew often repaired severely damaged units until they could barely hold together. Many stunt cars became patchwork constructions, reinforced in some places, hollowed out in others, stripped of non-essential components to reduce weight. By the time filming wrapped, only a small number of the original vehicles were intact. The rest were crushed, cannibalized for parts, or left unrecognizable. These sacrifices were essential to creating the fast-paced, unstoppable image of KITT on screen, even if the real cars paid a heavy price. Number 11. The dashboard that did nothing. KITT's interior looked like pure science fiction. Blinking lights, animated meters, colorful panels, and a cockpit that felt closer to a spaceship than a car. But almost none of it actually worked. The production team built the dashboard from inexpensive materials such as plastic housings, toy switches, and lightweight buttons purchased from electronics surplus shops. Most lights were wired to simple timers or battery packs, and many of the screens were just reflective surfaces with colored gels taped behind them. During shooting, actors had to pretend they were interacting with advanced systems, even though the controls were fragile and sometimes fell apart with the slightest touch. Crew members frequently glued pieces back on between takes, often with hot glue because it dried quickly. Despite the cheap construction, the dashboard became one of the most memorable elements of the show. Viewers believed it controlled KITT's artificial intelligence, turbo boost, and surveillance tools. The truth is that it was all smoke and mirrors, a brilliant illusion built from bargain bin parts. Number 10. The engine sound that was fake. Fans remember KITT's distinctive engine note, a deep electronic growl layered with futuristic tones that made the car sound alive. But none of those sounds came from the actual Trans Am. The production recorded the real car early on and immediately decided it was far too ordinary for a television hero. To create the iconic sound, audio engineers mixed synthesizer tones with modified recordings of machinery, electric motors, and even laboratory equipment. Every acceleration, every turbo boost moment, and every idle vibration was crafted manually in the studio. The unique pulse beneath the engine noise was created by modulating mechanical hums to mimic a living heartbeat. Because of the artificial soundscape, KITT often seemed more like a character than a vehicle. What viewers heard on screen was not a muscle car. It was a carefully engineered auditory illusion built to enhance the myth of a sentient machine. Number 9. The foam cars used for crashes. Knight Rider delivered explosive stunts, but the show did not have the budget to destroy real Trans Ams every time. To solve the problem, the production built full-sized foam replicas of KITT for crash-heavy scenes. These replicas were carved from dense foam blocks, painted black, and mounted on basic frames. From a distance or at high speed, they were nearly indistinguishable from the real vehicle. When a scene required KITT to smash through obstacles or flip dramatically, the foam cars took the hit. They were light enough to fly convincingly during jumps and soft enough to collapse safely on impact. Some were destroyed in a single take, leaving nothing but foam fragments scattered across the set. This low-cost trick gave the impression of high-budget destruction while keeping the real cars safe for close-up work. Most viewers never suspected that some of the most dramatic crashes involved nothing more than sculpted foam. Number 8. The Turbo Boost, powered by cables. KITT's Turbo Boost is one of the most iconic moves in the entire series. The moment when the car launches into the air like a rocket. Viewers imagined secret hydraulics or powerful modifications, but the real technique was far more grounded. The production used hidden tow cables attached to stunt rigs, pulling the car rapidly toward ramps to achieve the dramatic jump. The cables were buried beneath dirt, painted to match the road, or hidden behind foreground elements. Operators synchronized the pull with the stunt driver's timing so that it appeared as though KITT propelled itself with sudden power. In some takes, the car was completely unpowered, functioning only as a guided projectile. The clever use of cables allowed the team to create breathtaking leaps without advanced tech or excessive speed. It was a practical illusion, simple, effective, and perfectly suited to the show's fast-paced style. Number 7. The unreleased Pontiac concept influence. While KITT was built from the familiar Trans Am platform, some of its futuristic styling came from a Pontiac concept car that never reached the public. Designers in the studio had early access to sketches and prototype elements from an abandoned project meant to modernize Pontiac's muscle car image. The production team borrowed details such as angular panel shapes, lighting cues, and interior trim ideas to give KITT a more advanced and experimental look. Because the concept was never released, many viewers assumed these elements were original Knight Rider inventions. In reality, they were remnants of a car that Pontiac hoped would redefine the brand, but eventually shelved due to cost and engineering challenges. Ironically, the abandoned concept found new life on television, becoming part of one of the most recognizable screen cars ever built. KITT's sleek identity, often celebrated as ahead of its time, was partly born from a design that the world was never supposed to see. Number 6. The half steering wheel for close-ups. One of the strangest props inside KITT was a steering wheel that appeared normal on camera, but was anything but normal in person. For tight interior shots, the production cut the wheel in half, removing the lower section entirely. This modified wheel allowed cameramen to place equipment where a full wheel would normally block the view, giving them clean angles of the dashboard, the actors' hands, and the surrounding controls. The half wheel was never meant to be functional. It wobbled easily, lacked structural support, and sometimes detached if pulled too hard. Actors had to treat it gently, while still pretending to drive with confidence. Some scenes even show the wheel shaking slightly, because it was mounted loosely for quick removal. Despite its impracticality, the half steering wheel solved a crucial filming challenge. It let the audience feel close to the action, without realizing the cockpit had been altered purely for cinematic convenience. Number 5. The paint job that constantly needed rescue. KITT's iconic glossy black finish looked flawless on screen, but maintaining that shine was a constant battle. The nose cone cracked frequently, the stunt impacts scuffed the sides, and heat from studio lights dulled the surface within hours. To keep KITT looking perfect, The crew repainted or polished the cars again and again, sometimes multiple times within the same shooting week. The black paint highlighted every imperfection, so even tiny scratches had to be fixed immediately. The team kept a dedicated station stocked with sanding tools, buffers, and layers of lacquer. Some cars accumulated so many paint repairs that their finish became noticeably thicker, especially around edges and curves. In certain shots, careful viewers can see uneven reflections betraying the car's troubled surface, but the effort paid off. KITT's shimmering black coat became one of its most defining features, reinforcing its mysterious and high-tech aura throughout the series. Number 4. The continuity errors, creating fake KITTs. With multiple KITTs used across different scenes, continuity became a constant challenge. Each car had slight differences: paint thickness, interior layout, wheel types, even the shape of the nose cone. When shots were edited together, these discrepancies created unintentional fake KITTs, where the car subtly changed appearance from one moment to the next. Fans with sharp eyes later noticed scenes where KITT's scanner height shifted, or the dashboard layout suddenly differed between angles. Some episodes even swapped a hero car with a stunt shell mid-sequence, causing the body lines to jump in shape. At the time, viewers rarely noticed because televisions were small and image quality was low. These continuity mistakes, while accidental, added a strange layer to the show's legacy. They became a treasure hunt for dedicated fans who enjoyed spotting each alternate KITT hidden in plain sight. Number 3. The dashboard built from toys. The interior of KITT looked like advanced artificial intelligence engineered decades ahead of its time, but the materials used to build that illusion came from some surprisingly humble origins. Many of the dashboard buttons were actually children's toy switches purchased in bulk from discount stores. The colorful indicators and blinking lights were assembled using plastic pieces originally designed for educational kits and model building sets. To keep the tight shooting schedule, the crew often repaired broken components with hot glue. The method was fast and reliable, but it left visible blobs and seams that the camera team had to frame carefully. Some buttons were attached so loosely that they wobbled each time actors pressed them, forcing editors to trim frames to hide the motion. Despite these makeshift techniques, the dashboard became one of the most iconic interiors ever seen on television. It proved that imagination mattered far more than expensive equipment, a lesson that still inspires filmmakers today. Number 2. The failed real self-driving experiment. Inspired by the show's futuristic concept, the production briefly explored the possibility of creating a partially autonomous KITT. Engineers experimented with rudimentary radio controls, early servo systems, and hidden mechanical linkages to allow the car to move without a visible driver. In controlled tests, the car managed slow, straight-line movements, but the technology was nowhere close to safe or reliable enough for a working television set. During one trial, the system malfunctioned and the car rolled into a barrier, ending the experiment instantly. Safety concerns, unpredictable hardware, and the complexity of coordinating stunts with primitive electronics pushed the idea aside. From that point on, the illusion of self-driving relied entirely on hidden drivers, cable pulls, and clever camera placement. Had the experiment succeeded, KITT might have become the earliest functional self-driving stunt vehicle in television history. Instead, it remains a fascinating what-if moment from a show that constantly pushed the limits of imagination. Number 1. The KITT sold, cheaper than a used car. Although KITT is now regarded as one of the most legendary screen cars of all time, not every replica received the recognition it deserved. After the show ended, one of the production-used KITTs found its way into a small auction with almost no publicity. Without proper documentation or restoration, it looked like an oddly modified Trans Am rather than a piece of television history. Bidders had no idea they were looking at a car that once appeared on camera. With no fanfare, the vehicle sold for a shockingly low sum, less than the cost of an average used car at the time. Only years later, When enthusiasts traced its unique interior layout and stunt-style modifications, did they realize what it truly was? The buyer unknowingly acquired a priceless artifact for a bargain. Today, that moment stands as one of the strangest and most ironic chapters in the entire KITT legacy. KITT has always felt larger than life, a machine wrapped in mystery, attitude, and a voice that defined an entire era of television. But behind that sleek black silhouette was a story far stranger than any adventure shown on screen. From missing stunt cars to improvised technology, from foam bodies to forgotten replicas, every version of KITT carried its own secret history. What made the legend so powerful was not just the car itself, but the imagination, the chaos, and the clever tricks that brought it to life. And even now, decades later, KITT still captures something that no modern show has ever truly recreated. A sense of wonder wrapped inside a machine that should not have existed, yet somehow did. If any of these discoveries surprised you, or if you grew up watching that scanner glow in the dark, let me know which moment hit you the most. And if you want to keep exploring the hidden stories behind the most iconic vehicles in film and television, you already know what to do. Stay tuned, stick around, and join me on the next ride. The road ahead is still full of secrets.